Happy Spooktober and happy Halloween. And as a special seasonal event, I will be checking out creepypastas from across the internet. If you don't know what a creepypasta is, they are horror stories that are basically on the internet. They get passed around forums and other sites to disturb and frighten their readers. And the phrase creepypasta derives from the word copypasta, which is basically an internet phrase for if you were to have a block of text that just gets copied and pasted over and over again from website to website, kind of like a meme in a way. So sit back, relax, subscribe. It's time for a creepy story. Spider-Man Extended Edition. Author unknown. Hello, my name is Eric. I am a father of 2 kids, Marcus who is 7, and Lucy who is 5. They loved all things Marvel Comics related, but this one day, my kids were scared by this extended edition of Spider-Man from 2002. One day I was in my room with my wife Annie while watching TV. I was watching The Simpsons when my kids came storming into my room screaming, "Dad, the new Spider-Man film is out. Can we go see it, please?" I said okay, and I told them that we'd go see it after school on May the 7th, 2002. Tuesday came. I got out of work at 2:30 and picked up my kids from school. The school they go to is called Summer Elementary School. We drove down to the Regal Tall Furs 10 in Bonnie Lake. Before the movie, I asked my kids if they wanted a Happy Meal from McDonald's. I sat down in the restaurant with them. After lunch, we walked down to the theater and purchased 3 tickets for Spider-Man. Right before we entered the theater, we saw Stan Lee sitting near the door. He asked, "Are you fellows seeing the new Spider-Man?" I said, "Yes." He replied by saying, "Well, you will not like this version." We went into the theater, our number was 1. I was surprised because we were the only ones inside. Eventually weird for a movie like this. The previews that were showing were Lilo and Stitch, Stuart Little 2, the Powerpuff Girls movie, Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, Jonah a VeggieTales movie, and the Country Bears. The previews ended and the film started normally, despite the fact that I saw the movie before my kids did. The film started with Peter Parker running to catch his bus, but the bus obviously speeds up. The next scene cuts to where Peter Parker meets Harry Osborn's father. I asked my kids to wait in the theater while I went into the bathroom. When I finished my phone call in the bathroom, I heard a scream coming out of the theater that I was in. My heart sank down when I heard that. But how the heck would I hear screaming all the way through a simple bathroom? I quickly rushed back to the theater and asked my kids what was wrong. Lucy pointed to the screen, and I felt my heart sink to rock bottom. It was a horrifying glimpse of Mary Jane Watson screaming. Her eyes had dark, hollow holes. In the background, I could desperately hear My Nutmeg Fantasy by Macy Gray, in reverse in the background. I told my kids to calm down and told them that it was just an image. It then cut to the scene where Peter is visiting the graveyard. He spots Norman Osborn dressed as the Green Goblin. Peter Parker pulls out a pocket knife and stabs his eye socket. My kids were screaming and crying as he was doing that. I tried to calm my kids down and tell them it's just a film. When it got to the scene where Spider-Man fights the Green Goblin on the bridge, Spider-Man takes off his mask and screams so loud I nearly covered my ears, and so did my children. We quickly ran to the exit of the theater where we saw Stan Lee again, but I told him that he was right about this scary edition of Spider-Man. We came home from the theater and I asked Sony about who created that alternate version of Spider-Man. 2 days later, I got an email from Columbia Pictures which said this: "Dear Eric Templeton, we are so sorry about what you saw in theaters. The alternate version you watched was created by Edward Fanning. He was a suicidal man that had no choice but to create an alternative version of Spider-Man. Back in June 30, 2000, our script was finally done, but Stan Lee accidentally told us that Edward Fanning made the script for the missing film. I hope your kids are okay from this nightmare. In 2001, Marvel didn't appreciate the alternate version, but Edward Fanning said that if they didn't appreciate his version, they would fire us. So then, we released it on purpose. I am sorry that your kids were so scared by this. Best wishes, Marvel Comics." I'm glad that this nightmare is over. I didn't get nightmares, only my kids did have a nightmare, where Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson came into Lucy's bedroom, just laughing. And Marcus had a nightmare where the Green Goblin shot him with a pumpkin bomb. The nightmare has ended now, but it will still occur later in the future. And that is the end of Spider-Man Extended Edition. So if you just came here for a creepypasta story, here's the point where you get off, but now I'm going to be giving some feedback on this creepypasta story. So as far as lost episode, lost media creepypastas go, this is a pretty standard fare. Unsuspecting person stumbles across alternative version of familiar property. is immensely shocked by the violent content. Now, I'll say this, the addition of the family dynamic definitely added some extra stakes to this one. I think it was wise by making it so that the kids wanted to see it more than he himself did, and were in for a shock. But there's a lot here that's just really kind of stupid. For starters, the entire writing style and format of this thing is just confused. It includes details that we really don't need, and I think the whole idea is that we feel a bit more involved in this story, so it's not just non-descriptive, flat writing. But do we really need to know that the father told the kids the exact date they'd be seeing the Spider-Man movie? Did we really need to know what exact theater they were going to and what the location of it was? Did we really need to know what they ate before seeing the film, and what trailers were running? If this were more of a diary entry kind of a thing, it would make sense to include the dates and locations. There's also just instances where it is overwritten and overly descriptive, as in like when it says, "I was surprised because we were the only ones inside, eventually weird for a movie like this." What the hell does the eventually add to that? What does that even mean? How eventually weird? And if Stan Lee has warned you that you won't like this version of the film before going in to see the film, would that not surely bring on some alarm bells that would stop you from necessarily abandoning your kids to watch this movie you've been warned about while you go off to the bathroom for a phone call? And if they're 5 and 7, I still wouldn't quite deem it a good age to be leaving them alone in a movie theater. What, is this guy's name Eric McCann now? But hold up, let's backtrack a bit. What the hell is Stan Lee doing outside the theater warning people about this film? And how has he just sat there all by himself? And why this specific theater? It's not like it took place in Hollywood. But Stan Lee just sitting there, not being mobbed by a crowd. Now, okay, admittedly, this was before the Stan Lee cameo boom. He'd only made a few little cameos in Marvel movies. People knew who he was, but it was mainly just kind of the geeks that knew his name. He wasn't quite the household name that he is today, but I'm sure there'd be at least a few people. And it's also one of those things where they basically say, you know, the film starts normally despite having seen it before, and they kind of make a point of how it starts normally. I kind of feel like stories like these, lost episode stories, are better without the fluff and setup, and where we just kind of lull the reader into a false sense of security. We've already had Stan Lee warn us that the film is going to be weird, and now he's making a big point about how the film starts normally. And then pretty much everything that goes on in this creepypasta is pretty standard fare. You've got screaming with dark hollow holes in the eyes, Nutmeg Fantasy in Reverse by Macy Gray made me laugh. Wow, that song, like, people remember that. That's good. And why has he not kind of like just hurried his kids out of the theater already by this point? Why did he not listen to Stan Lee at all, or at least question it? Like, they state the part where Peter is visiting a graveyard and he spots Norman Osborn dressed as a Green Goblin, and then he pulls out a pocket knife and stabs into his eye sockets, and the kids are screaming and crying, yet he still makes it to the final battle of the film. Why? Why did you not take your kids out of the theater as soon as you saw Mary Jane screaming? This is the thing, having the kids there does actually hinder this in some ways too. If it was just him by himself, you could kind of say, hey, it's a morbid curiosity aspect, but at this point you're just being a bad parent. So then we have the part where he contacts Sony Pictures about it, and this is where it gets really funny, as we have the origin story of this alternative cut of Spider-Man, and it's the usual like what we have in Squidward Suicide, where it's just a suicidal writer. But they state that this writer would have fired them if they didn't release this version of the film. Sorry, the writer would have fired Sony Pictures. I don't think that's right. But then better yet, the writer makes a big point of it being Sony Pictures that they wrote to, and then saying that they got an email back from Columbia Pictures, which is 601, they're both the same. But then at the end it says, best wishes, Marvel Comics. Who did you write to and who wrote back? And then we got that ending paragraph. I'm glad this nightmare is over. I didn't get nightmares. Only my kids did have a nightmare. I'm gonna assume this was written by a kid. And like, you know, plus points for being inspired, plus points for creativity. Maybe I'm wrong though. I'm just reading the creepypasta for what it is. We don't know anything about this writer, to be honest. And then there's kind of a very vague, out of nowhere cliffhanger ending, where it's just like, the nightmare has ended for now, but it will still occur later in the future. What the hell does that mean? What, does that mean you went to see The Amazing Spider-Man? Yeah, to quote Stan Lee, you will definitely not like this version. Ah boy, what an experience. Well, you guys, what do you think? Comment below and discuss, and please, like, let me know what creepypastas you want me to read next. Fandom-based is always best, because that's kind of the stuff this channel generally does. But yeah, comment below and discuss, and as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and in the description below are links to my Patreon and my Discord. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a great day, and up next is a word from our sponsor. Oh, hey gang, look at this. Channel Goat is back. But he's got bad news. His computer was hacked by the Adzinko gang, and they leaked his private information. And now his goat cojones are there for everybody to see. Ah man, that's quite a predicament you got there, Channel Goat. And the thing is, you're not the only one. Do you know how many people get hacked per year and have their personal information and data spread online for all to see? A lot. Like, look it up. And I know what the rest of you are thinking. It hasn't happened to me, yet. Well, emphasis on yet. I mean, how old are you? Right, now how long is the average human lifespan? That's a lot of time that you could get hacked in. And by the time that's done, everybody is gonna know what your pee-pee looks like. Do you really want that? Do you really want the world to see your pee-pee? You run that risk every single day, guys. Seriously, hackers, pretty talented people. Which is why I, for one, use NordVPN to protect my private information and my Nords. It shuffles your data so that it can't be found by hackers, but not only that, it can also unlock the worldwide range of Netflix. And like, who wouldn't want that, right? Now you can really maximize your subscription. The fact is, guys, you could save yourself the stress and a lawsuit by simply browsing with NordVPN. And I've made it easy for you. A link is in the description below. And your subscription comes with a promise. Nobody has to know what you're into anymore. You little furry you. Anyway, sign up today. Seriously, do it. Please? For your sweet little puppy? This video is brought to you by Zentai for all your cosplay needs. Link is in the description below and they are very cool and good. Cosplay your favorite characters or send in one of your own designs. Affordable prices and very high quality. Made to order and made to measure. But most of all, made to be heckin' awesome. If you couldn't already tell. Guys, can you believe where we are now and where we started? How long ago it was that Channel Pup, or Channel Goat even, came about? Because it really wasn't that long when you think about it. Can you believe the amount of support I've received from this community, from all of you subscribing to the channel and everything? It's unreal. It's a dream come true for me. But behind the YouTubers you watch usually comes a bit of a truth, is that they're often dirt poor. Now, I've had the good fortune of being able to grow this YouTube channel and hopefully turn it into a career, but I'm gonna need a little bit of help along the way, to even the odds to make ends meet, so that I can use all of the possible time that I have to make videos for you guys, as opposed to doing something mundane, for barely enough money to make it worth its while. I've done all that, I've lived that life. The fact is, together we all built Channel Pup. We made it what it is today, and I want to keep the ball rolling on that. I don't ever want to stop doing this, because this is the most gratifying job I've ever had, and I think the most pleasurable hobby anyone could ever have. I don't take any of the support that I receive from you guys for granted, but if in any way you're wondering if maybe you could do a little more for the channel even, then I want to direct you to the Patreon link in the description below. It would mean the world to me to have your support via Patreon. It can help me to make ends meet, it can help me to better my content, it can help me to have more time to really work on this stuff. But you know what, I'm not just going to take your support and run. No way, Jose. In the Patreon, you can access exclusive videos via the Pups Project Room playlist, where you can see different projects that I've been working on or have worked on that have either not made it to YouTube for general viewing or have been cancelled, or, well, you can get a little view of the process that goes behind the Channel Pup videos and productions. As well as that, you tend to get advanced previews of the bigger Channel Pup projects, our tentpole event projects. If you've seen Marvelous Tales of Spider-Man, you'll be aware that that was released on the Patreon first, and 20 days later approximately was released for general viewing on YouTube. That's not the only time I'm gonna do this. But you know what? If you can't do the Patreon or are just not interested in doing the Patreon, I fully understand. Like, it's still a big ask in my opinion. And what counts most is your support. So, as always, thank you so much, guys. I've been Channel Pup, and I will think of a better catchphrase next time. Now, please leave me alone!